So yeah, I think if that individual had the internet, he may have been just as bad.
Oh, absolutely. He would have been like an equal monster.
But yeah, I find it interesting that we get a depiction of that kind of guy pre-internet in this 1800s horror story. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like that mentality and like that need for.
Hey, read my manifesto about why I'm the king of America and
Yeah.
I deserve to rule it as an emperor. Yeah, exactly.
It's me. You gotta read about my universe.
Kind of the right, like he's like, it's interesting how much he's a Napoleon guy, both because I think about how many dudes, like, you know, there's a whole podcasting complex out there just for like Napoleon fans.
People really like him.
But yeah, Napoleon, you know, I talked about the Count of Monte Cristo as like in fiction being like a new kind of individualist fantasy that came with the French Revolution. Or as a product of the French Revolution, but like, you know, Napoleon's that sort of neoliberal individual. Like, he's the man that's going to change the country because we got the smartest boy in charge.
That's right. Biggest big dick boy.
Yeah, the kind of structural recreation of that mindset in the macro, in the micro, so that, you know, individuals are all like, oh, well, like, if Napoleon can bootstrap it, I need to bootstrap it too, and I could be just like Napoleon, and I'm going to have my own Napoleon narrative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he can do. I think he's going to.
No, yeah, that editor's lying to us. Clearly, that dude got away from the cops, and
he's good now.
He's probably the king of America right now.
God, it's so funny.
It is interesting how we've kind of ceded control to those people. That's something I've been thinking about. Is like, there's a lot of memes about the Democrats and the online left like fighting, and there being a lot of like online fighting between leftists and liberals. Whereas, like, you know, the right are seen as more like a unified bloc as far as like they got their guy. And I think part of it is that there's conflict between liberals and the left because there's a lot of like earnest people engaging the internet debate over like where they want the party to go on both sides of that. But for conservatives, like, all the online Nazi types we're seeing are just the maddest and the worst, because like the most successful conservatives consider themselves like normies, or like they're like offline. Like, politics is essentially for losers, not in the sense that like you're a stupid loser, or in a moral sense for following politics, or a cultural sense you're not cool for following politics. What I mean is, like, if you're succeeding in America, if your wallet's fat and you're not needing to think about these things, you're not thinking about these things. You're not online posting the Pepes. Like, you're running your car dealership.
Actually, that's what you need to.
So the people we see online from the right, it's almost an overrepresentation of the most extreme.
Yeah.
This is also why those people who are considering themselves like winners and voting Republican because they've had nothing bad happen to them since Reagan are just like, what are you talking about? What's the matter? Because like they don't look at this stuff and see the evolution of loserdom in terms of like, well, the losers used to be talking about things just not being like Christian enough, but now they're doing phrenology. Like, that is worth tracking.
Yeah.
And again, when I'm saying losers, I'm talking about like the people who feel like the system hasn't worked for them so much that they take a active interest in politics because they're not winning under the current macro structure reign.
Which is like a wild position to find yourself being in.
Yeah, so there's a lot of those guys who are like the protagonist of the keeper of the repair of reputations, who like they have those extreme online, hyper online narratives about like why they're losers and why they deserve to be winners. And if anything, that might be why like this administration's been so bad at actually governing, because they're doing like the stuff the loudest voices at the table are demanding be done. And the loudest voices at the table are at the table because they don't have a fucking job. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like the actual business people are all like, hey, you're screwing over the GDP. What's up with that? Why are we like, can we not do this stuff with Doge? But then, you know, those people are also trying to run companies, and like, again, the whole losers-winners dichotomy, they're not online, they're not at the table. They're not here when like Drums is complaining about black people being about the black protagonist of Assassin's Creed, which I saw Brett Cooper posted a video about, and that just seems like the most astroturf, like, hey, look, I care about culture issues thing. Like, Brett Cooper, what are you doing?
Yeah,
like
this is what you choose to speak
this
of?
is what, yeah. Like the party of like, it's funny to me, the whole mantra of like, you know, today's Republicans or yesterday's liberals, because like, or because like, even 10 years ago, I feel a lot of what right-wingers are doing now, the right-wingers of a decade ago would have called them like soy and fake and homophobic slurs for practicing.
Oh yeah.
Like with that Jubilee video dropped, you know, and there was a bunch of like, you know, why are they dressed like lefties?
Yeah, like everyone's kind of adopting that, like, that costuming.
Because America's not a place for genuine convictions.
Also, like, it's been interesting too how much everything visually has stayed the same for seemingly the past like 10 years.
Yeah.
Like, you know, 80s, 90s, 2000s had like very distinct styles and things, and it's definitely like everyone's kind of just stuck in the same.
I do think we
whatever
will,
cycle.
in hindsight, start seeing that we do have a style with this decade. I think that happens every decade, but it's definitely less pronounced, and I think part of that is due to our pop culture being more disposable and uniform in its creation. So things just kind of look the same because it's the cheapest like way to like just keep making the same looking
Yeah, the
stuff.
mass produce. Yeah, that's true.
But like it still means like we get like a less diverse set of like cool things in the actual pop culture because of the corporate domination.
Yeah.
Like I think more so than anything political, this is why the Snow White movie failed, because like people are kind of tired of the live action Disney game by now. They know what to expect out of them. Like there's no reason people feel to see Snow White, especially when Mufasa got, you know, owned by Sonic 3.
Yeah.
Which just showed you that you can still have a studio making a big commercial kids movie that doesn't feel like a drag.
Ugh.
What were they thinking was Mufasa?
I have no idea. Look at that big boy.
But yeah, then everything just feels generic and disposable, and despair sets in.
Right.
I think this is too why like the video essay and the kind of the blog or review as the video reviewer has become such a thing. Because when the art itself feels impersonal, what feels personal is like having someone recount it to you in their voice and style. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So suddenly it's not like this movie is boring and not talked about, but it's like, well, like what do the Red Letter Media dudes have to say about this train wreck, or like what does my favorite critics have to say about this stuff?
Yeah, these people whose ideas I feel associated with.
And when you shift the paradigm to that sort of concept, where people are talking about interpretations rather than just like making the thing, it becomes easier for, you know, those low-hanging fruit right-wing takes of just calling things woke and DEI to be like entered into the field as like valid forms of entertainment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because instead of having to like make a movie where you're pitching your idea in a narrative sense, you're just complaining that Star Wars is, you know, too woke or
It's so annoying.
something along those
Anytime
lines.
there's-
I know that's even kind of old hat by now.
For sure, but it seems like it's being retreaded over and over again, regardless of how.
Yeah, Andor's coming up. We'll see what the conversations are like in the milieu.
I liked Andor season 1. It was much better than I was expecting it to be.
Yeah, you brought up the whole it being a cast of characters that aren't the same people you always see.
Yeah.
I think that's very crucial to differentiating like a fun Star Wars thing that's actually just playing with the universe and a Star Wars thing that's just space royalty obsessed with blood magic and the Skywalker lineage.
Yeah, I forget. It's like whenever they put the stormtroopers in like a tropical setting. I was like, this is something new.
Rogue One, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, this is something we haven't seen. This is something like you can like imagine is happening in the world, but this is the first time you've actually been like, oh, here it is put to screen.
Right, that's the thing too.
There's so
Is
much cool
like
shit
with
like
the exhaustion on superhero stuff, is like it's not even a hard ask, like to just be creative with it. This is why superhero comics, even when they have bad scripts, can still make sales, because like within the art itself, the execution's so damn cool, or like you can tell the artist is working their ass off. You just don't get that with the whole shot on void, predetermined action scene stuff. Oh boy.
Yeah. Oh, loud.
Ooh boy. Cool.
Nice.
Cool. This level scares me.
That's fair.
That's what I thought. There's something in there. Height of imagination.
Yeah. I hate those guys. Little spin boys.
Yeah. I find it interesting that you frame it too, and you do bring up like, oh yeah, things look the same, because it speaks to like, what happens if we can't imagine, if we stifle imagination in that sense? There's people who'll talk about the AI drive being towards stymieing that sort of self agency. Mm-hmm. Like if you stop seeing yourself as a creator and only as a consumer.
Oh yeah.
And then the real problems start rising, because we do have to imagine like a better future politically, a way forward to reorganize around. And if you just don't have any muscles to imagine, it's very limited what you can imagine in that case.
Right. Things can only be worse, and we'll just make them worse.
I think we talked a bit about how like we're permitted to have like an ironic anger towards like our job and our coworkers. My wife, yuck. But like, yeah, if you're suffocated of imagination and just inundated with those kind of messages, that's how you get people who take it out on classmates, coworkers.
Yeah.
Targets that quote unquote don't deserve it.
Yeah.
I will not say things about targets that do deserve it, because I don't think that's fit talk for the internet, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. You can extrapolate, dear friends.
And here's the end of the level. Let's just battle these skeleton warriors and hopefully...
Nice.
Nice.
Walk that thing. Nice.
Broken Pillar.
Oh yeah, take that Dungeon of Despair.
92% of the game complete.
Dang, okay.
Yeah, we had a slow start this session. I was too focused on the level, but you know what? I think this is the end.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, gang.
Level 26.
Let's get up there first before I say anything, though.
Let's do this.
I think I'm going to get to the door, but before I engage the boss, I will go to break. Just a heads up to all those still hanging with us.
Yeah.
This is TechnoPoverty. I'm Henry.
I'm Jakob.
And we're right at the end of MAXIMO Goes to Glory. The path to King Akil just opened up. We're going to slay him. We're going to restore righteousness to the kingdom. I'm going to work my way up there first, of course, but there we go. Got the key I needed.
Nice. A drill.
But for those who may not have caught it earlier in the broadcast, we are planning a screening of the 1984 classic Top Secret this Saturday at 8 p.m. on our Discord. check our socials for more details on that.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun.
On Easter Sunday, we will be screening Freddy Got Fingered. We've been talking a lot about conditioned states of masculinity throughout this playthrough of the super buff guy Swords and Sorcery game. Freddy Got Fingered tears into these ideas in an interesting way. It's also just a funny movie and a fun time, so I want to share that with y'all.
Yeah. It'll be a fun thing to chat about.
Top Secret stars Val Kilmer, R.I.P., and it is a parody of spy movies and James Bond type stories. Yeah.
Man, yeah, speaking of Val Kilmer, there have been a lot of good Val Kilmer movies brought up recently.
Yeah, there's so many I do know and watch, and then people bring up more, and I was like, that's right, he had a wider body of work than I perceive.
Huge. I'm trying to think of like two of my big favorites are Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is very good, and I've been meaning to rewatch it, especially because we watched Gothica not too long ago, which also had a young Robert Downey Jr. in it.
Oh yeah, that was wild.
Yeah, when his shtick was fresh.
Mm-hmm. He's kind of like a Jeremy Piven, like he just is that actor.
He uses it to good effect in Oppenheimer for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I do think Oppenheimer's one of the times he actually is acting.
Yeah, he put something
Well
forward and
deserved.
changed it up.
Extremely funny that he just went back to the MCU after that. But hey, man,
that money, that paycheck is good.
I'm cynical about the outcome of that project, not because of RDJ, more so just because it's been an exhausting mess of drama as far as what's been going on with Disney and the Marvel movies and all that.
Just everything. I just don't care about superhero things. The stakes are too high for everything, and I don't.
The stakes are so generic within the cinematic fantasy. That's the thing I hate, because like on page there's so much more social metaphor, but that's like too political or too woke or like too risky for
our mainstream whatever.
So instead of there being like conflicts with like social pun or like political context, it's just the same save the world bad guy genericisms you think of when you think of Saturday morning cartoons, and it's like, you guys, like Anora just won Best Picture, and that was a empathetic depiction of sex work. I'm not saying Marvel movies need to have sex workers in them, but I think the culture is at a point where they're willing to accept some more boundary pushing in their entertainment.
Yeah. After so many years.
Oh, I'm just getting ported straight to it.
Ooh. Beautiful. The voice acting in this is great. Ooh.
Dang.
Oh, Lord.
So, chat, I'm going to pause right now, but I have a question for you to ponder while we go on break. And this is something that just came to mind because of that cutscene that also happens in Book of the New Sun. But were you to ingest that type of magic, like the cumulative souls of everyone, everything, would you still like really have any sense of your own identity? And, you know, to kind of put a cap on this whole conditioned identity, microstructure, macrostructure things, you know, if you take the souls of all the people you're rolling and you ingest them, would they direct you towards what they want, or would you still as an individual be able to control them even though they're literally like millions in a plethora in a magical sense? I know this is a very fantastical thought experiment, but I bring it up because it speaks to something both in Elden Ring and Book of the New Sun and just questions about leadership. Does a king get to do what he wants? Or is a king placed within his place by just a conspiracy of history and a confluence of economics and politics that have certain demands and will ruthlessly throw aside individuals and kind of, you know, dash babies against rocks until they find the strongest baby to put on the throne? I wonder about this because it's just like, you know, individuals get conditioned by a system to behave in the best possible way, there's going to be someone at the top of the leaderboard. Often they'll be the president. I think Obama's a very good example of this. He's kind of the arbiter of the neoliberal era in the way that he is an individualist performer of charismatic celebrity, but ultimately is just kind of ushering the management of like a neoliberal economy and just kind of deferring to the military and to business in terms of like letting them do their things. He's not a king striking it out to define his own thing. He even let them gank Obamacare. That wasn't a thing of ego where he's like, there's going to be free healthcare for everybody. It's going to have my name on it. It was just a branding sell with the name. I mean, the fact that it's called the Affordable Care Act and the Obamacare label is stuck to it in a way that scares people. It speaks to how like it was an era of branding and how maybe through focusing more on branding than substance, we soured a lot of people who now can't afford to participate in the branded market. Yeah. But yeah, it is currently 10:15. We are here at the final boss. We're going to take a break. We're going to be back at somewhere between 20 and 25, and then we're going to kill the king. So we'll be back with you in just a bit. Y'all get up, stretch, take a walk, smoke them if you got them. We were sitting down for longer than usual when it comes to break time. So, mind your posture, mind your joints, mind your hydration. Yeah. We'll be right back.
Don't be shrimping.